Hello and welcome. I'm Peter, the host of this channel. And on this channel, I share my experience as an independent explorer in the world of the occult, the unseen dimensions of consciousness. If you're watching this, I don't believe it's by chance. You've been guided here for some reason, and what I have to share today might just offer you a new perspective on power, knowledge, and self awareness. So let's start with why I no longer work with demonic spirits. As some of you know from my previous episodes, I no longer conjure demonic spirits. Earlier in my journey, I did, extensively. I experienced invocations, altered states, and what I would describe as demonic possession experiences. If you want to see my video on that topic, you can check it out here. The reason I stepped away from this work is simple. I eventually came into contact with what I perceive as the spirit of nature, an all-pervasive intelligence that, in my experience, operates on a far deeper and far more fundamental level than any singular entity. Nature is everywhere, in everything, across all planes of existence. And once you understand that, many older occult hierarchies begin to make sense in a new way. So why I revisited Lucifer? After many years, I wanted to understand Lucifer, not as a demon, but as a psychological and symbolic archetype, particularly as described in the Grimorium Verum. To do this, I used what mystics traditionally call the Akashic Records. By definition, the Akashic Record in occultism is a compendium of pictorial records or memories of all events, actions, thoughts, and feelings that have occurred since the beginning of time. They are said to be imprinted on Akasha, the astral light, which is described by spiritualists as a fluid ether existing beyond the range of human senses. The Akashic records are reputedly accessible to certain select individuals, for example, a spiritualist medium who conducts a seance. Akasha allegedly transmits the waves of human willpower, thought, feeling, and imagination, and is a reservoir of occult power, an ocean of unconsciousness to which all are linked, making prophecy and clairvoyance possible. In my experience, this is not a literal library. It's closer to a grid-like structure in the space-time continuum, where information appears as impressions, images, emotions, and dreams through your third eye. This is a subjective experience, but one that has remained consistent for me over time. Oh, and before we continue, if you find that this video is to your liking, then please give it a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, as it really motivates me to create more content like this. So first, Lucifer as intellect, not a monster. In the Grimorium Verum, Lucifer is not portrayed as chaotic or animalistic. He's meant to appear as a little boy when summoned. Logically, he represents intellect, clarity, pride in understanding, and the desire to stand apart from authority. This is not emotional energy. It is cold cognition. Lucifer, in this sense, is not rage. He is detachment and mental superiority. Looking back, I recognize how strongly I embodied these traits during the period I worked with this archetype. So let's see this archetype of separation. Lucifer also represents a critical psychological moment, when consciousness says, I will know for myself. This creates autonomy, individuation, and also isolation. Working with this archetype often coincides with increased self-focus, emotional distancing, and a feeling of standing outside the world. This is an evil. It's separative. And if you've experienced isolation during awakening, this may feel familiar to you. But I've already made a video on spiritual isolation. You can check it out here. Why Lucifer is associated with knowledge. From a Jungian perspective, Lucifer aligns closely with what we call the shadow intellect, the part of the psyche that questions rules, breaks taboos, seeks forbidden and non-sanctioned knowledge. This is why grimoires associate him with hidden knowledge, shortcuts, and insight over devotion. But psychologically, this comes with a risk. The danger of this is ego inflation. The Grimorium Verum warns about this, indirectly but clearly. Luciferian psychology tempts the practitioners into believing, I see what others don't, I'm above moral constraint. Understanding makes me exempt. This is ego identification with intellect. And when that happens, it often leads to loss of grounding, emotional flattening, and projection of inner conflicts outward. I experienced this myself, and I share it so you don't have to repeat it. So let us continue with why the presence feels dark. The darkness associated with Lucifer is not malevolence, it's absence of warmth. This archetype is analytical, precise, emotionally detached, and unmoved by human suffering. That's why encounters feel alien, intimidating, and emotionally cold. It mirrors what happens when reason fully detaches from feeling. So what does Lucifer really reflect? Ultimately, Lucifer in the Grimorium Verum functions as a mirror. You don't encounter an external being. You encounter your own relationship to power, knowledge, separation, authority, and self-trust versus arrogance. That's why practitioners report wildly different experiences. They're engaging the same archetype, filtered through their own psyche. And now, a more personal reflection. Recently, after many years, I revisited this archetype, not through ritual or invocation, but through observation and engagement with my third eye. What I perceived was not domination or conflict, but contrast. I recognized how far I had moved beyond that stage of my own development, and how much damage had unchecked intellect once done in my life. So after all these years, I have decided to summon him once again so I can make this video. I no longer needed to paint his sigil. I no longer did any incantations or made any offerings, because I was past that. I simply pulled him from the infinite pool of the one great mind, and here are the new impressions I got from him. He still represents elegant, majestic anger with beautiful, angry, mirror-like eyes. In his eyes you can see yourself as the infinitely small, localized consciousness which is the original form of every sentient and non-sentient being in this world. I could sense that he was frustrated, subtly asking me, what do I want after all these years? I could also sense that he's become powerless over me. His character resembled more of a bitchy child, not wanting to help, but has no other choice. My connection to the spirit of nature and space makes sure of that, because without these spirits, he, like all other gods in the universe, is nothing. Period. Because Lucifer has his own nature and he is confined within the infinite space of this world. Plain and simple. Just like you and me. There is just no escape from it. And folks, this is how you seal a demon. Just like Solomon did. This is the magic behind his magic. You can achieve this with the help of a far more powerful element or entity, without which that other entity like Lucifer or any other archetype could not exist. He knew that I no longer needed his help. I just conjured him for my newest video's sake. So in that state he became something like a captured bug. He could be vicious, he could act hostile towards me, but it did not matter anymore because he was captured, trapped. Since I know what I know about the spirit of space and the spirit of nature today. If you want to hear that story, you can check out my video over here. At the same time, what struck me was that I could sense that he has become less of a threat to me than myself. And I came to realize that it's because I've become such a shadow of my former self that even he carried more light than I did. I felt as if at this stage of my journey I could harm myself more than he or any other god or demonic spirit ever could. And it's true. I can clearly see and feel it when I take a good look at my life, that I pose as a danger to my health and well-being, that I'm far more capable of harming myself through imbalance and neglect than any archetype ever could. That insight was sobering and necessary. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening. If you want to share your own reflections or experiences, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you want to sign up to the Proxy Spirit Experience, you can still do so via my email in my bio. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. More love.